Margaret Fago. I'm the president of the Frankfurt Center for the Arts, and we are having our monthly artist demo tonight. We record these meetings and put them on our YouTube channel. So with
so much for tuning in today, and I'm really excited to share my passion with you, which is plein air painting. This is where we're supposed to start. I have been painting, as she said, for about 10 years, but I did major in art in college and stopped for about 30 years. I'm going to cover a few things today, and the first is why would you paint plein air? The second is just a few useful tools that I use, and then the importance of composition is I think the number one thing in painting. And I give you a little tip on no-tans, which I'll explain then. And then just the nuts and bolts of packing up and setting up, and what to do and what not to do. And finally, I have a demo of a few paintings that I did, and I'll walk you through my thought process and some decisions that I made to get to them. So again, I won't really be able to answer questions while I'm talking, but I do have a 30-minute video that I pre-recorded that I might be able to kind of sit back, and if there was something that I didn't explain well, I'll get a sense for that through your questions and address that when I can, okay? All right, so one reason I paint outside is just the way I started again. I was invited by this woman on that screen, Kathy, to go out and paint with her when she and I were in an investment club together. And she was going to take a workshop. She said, could you come paint with me? I know you paint. And so I took my gear out for the first time. And what I realized is when you do plein air painting, you go through this thought process really fast. You have to find your scene, compose it, mix your colors, which I was really rusty at doing, paint it, apply paint, all the many things that go into plein air painting, or go into painting that you can do in your studio. You've got to get them done in about 2 or 3 hours. And my art professor would tell me that you have 100 bad paintings in you. So just get them out. So that's how I went into it. I just said, okay, these are going to be terrible. Who cares? Let's see what can happen. I'll worry about it in 100 paintings. And it was a good mentality to have, is not to think everything's a masterpiece, and just to get used to manipulating paint again. I also really liked being outside. I think it's a healthier place to be, not just because of the fumes that some of these materials we use give off, but also, you're outside, you get a little exercise, you get to be part of the landscape, and mentally, I come back in the best mood. If I'm not exhausted, I come back in the best mood after I've been painting. And then, this is for those of you who live in California watching this, it's California. We have got the best weather, and then look at the subject matter that we have. We've got everything from the mountains to the city, to rural, to ocean, to ranch land. There's just so many different things to paint. And if there's anything I try to do, it's to try different things. And so this suits me really, really well out here. I wanted to show you just a few of the things just in Alameda that I've painted. These are just, not even all of the paintings I've done in Alameda, but look at just the variety on the island of Alameda that there is. There's, of course, lots of buildings, and I tend to gravitate towards architecture and buildings and boats and things like that. But it is such a rich place, and I feel so lucky that I've been able to paint at the Frankfurt plein air. The other thing is that I just have fun. I have met so many people through this endeavor, and when you have a common passion with other people, it just makes a really fun outing, because there's so much to talk about, and you're often in the car driving places together, and that's a really great time to share. And then you know, we'll kind of break up and do our own things and come back together again. And these are my friends in Lake Tahoe. She just became a grandmother today. We go up to Tahoe. These are my friends. We went to actually Visalia, and this gentleman here, Randall Stouse, I met in Lake Tahoe, and he's taken me under his wings and introduced me to a ton of artists. And this is one of the groups that I was introduced to, and we ended up going to France together. So it's taken me places. It's been great. But inspiration comes from so many things. And for me, when I'm looking at things, you know, before it used to be just, oh, that's a pretty color. And now I'm kind of looking more at the way light is hitting, and it's not individual colors, but the way, just the way a scene has the way light comes through a scene is one of my number one things. But also, but other things will inspire me. And this is one I did for the Frank Bet 2018. And I actually tried to paint it 2017. I went there, and back here in these buildings, I started hearing an argument, and I was all by myself. It was a pretty desolate place, and I just didn't feel safe. So I packed everything back in my car and I left, and I didn't do the painting. But over the year, I thought about this painting, and I thought about this. I just kept thinking about like Mondrian has this great division of color. And then you get the complementary color and the verticals and the lines. And I just thought, wow, that would be so cool to think of that when I'm painting it. So actually, when I was on site, painting it, I did a little video that I'll share with you.
I have been eyeing this scene for over a year, and I'm finally doing it. It's out on the old naval base in Alameda, and it's sort of a sketchy area, and I finally felt comfortable enough to do it. This is just a start, and this is a study I did off of it about a year ago from a photo, and it's just sort of a cool design, I think. So we'll see how it goes.
Okay, so what's interesting about this painting is typically you go out and you do a little tiny 8x10, and then you take that to your studio and you make a big painting out of it. That's what a typical plein air thing would be. But this time I took a little tiny painting, or I took a photo, went to my studio with the photo and did a little tiny painting. And that was my basis for a plein air piece. So it's a little backwards, but it was successful. So I was very excited about winning Best of Show in 2018. Enough about me. Let's figure out how you're going to get to pack to go out plein air painting. I can get all of this gear in here into this backpack, except for the umbrella and the cornhole set back here, which does not come with this set. Anyway, so it all packs up really, really small. This is the pochade that goes on top of my tripod. And then my umbrella mounts on the back leg of my tripod. And I have learned how to set this up so that if a gust of wind comes, it's fairly secure. But if it's super windy, I don't bother with an umbrella. Okay, but an umbrella really helps. And I'm going to show you how that looks in my trunk. I know you wanted to know this, right?
I put everything in my backpack, which is right here, and then all my extra gear in this box. What I make sure to do is anything with liquids that are really damaging, smelly, bad to have, I put in here, this little RMS can, rather than in my backpack, because I have had instances where they have leaked. So I like to make sure everything is upright and not going to damage a friend's car or mine. And so when I see my friend, I will just grab my clothing bag, stick it on the back seat, grab my backpack, this bag, and my umbrella. That's it, ready to go. It's not going to take much time at all. Yeah, that's it. So key is preparation, and that's what I'm doing tonight.
Okay, so what's funny is that was supposed to be the second video, but the first video was such a mess I didn't want to show it to you first because it looks like I'm not very organized, but I had taken everything out of my backpack to show you what goes inside. So this is that video. So it was really came first, but it doesn't really matter. It all makes sense.
Hi there. I am getting ready to go painting tomorrow. So when I have an early start, I always get it ready the night before. Makes a huge difference. It gets me out the door faster. And I know I'm going to be hopping in someone's car. So my attempt is to make myself as portable as possible so that I don't take over their whole car. This is not put together yet. I wanted to show you some of the items that I have here. This is my backpack, and I put everything in here mostly, and I always put it in the same exact way. And I'm not a meticulous person, but with my backpack I am. One thing I noticed is I have all these lists about what to remember to bring. So I decided to write the list right on the backpack. And this is my favorite list because this all goes in one compartment. And when I open up my zipper, I count to 5 and make sure there's 5 things in it. And I don't put any straight things in so that I count wrong. But anyway, there's always going to be my packet of brushes, my tripod, my paint tray, which is this thing. It's loaded up with paint already. And I will often put it in the freezer the night before, but it's cool enough right now that they won't dry out. If I do put it in the freezer, I put a note to myself on my steering wheel to remind myself to get it. So then I also have paper towel in here, and I usually take a small roll so it's not so big, and I can even fold it down. But I'm always in my kitchen when I get down to a smaller size, I grab it and put a new one in because this is a size or a little bit bigger than this is what I like. And then I always have a garbage bag, which is a net that I'll show you later, but it collapses down. It's a pretty cool little one that I purchased for about 20 bucks. So those are always in this one compartment. And then other things that I have is my pochade, and that might be separate. And that is this box right there that opens up. Again, I'll show you how all this connects. My canvases that I'm going to paint on, and the wet panel carrier or wet panel holder, which are these things. Now, I often go out for 2 or 3 paintings in a day, so I like to have a second while on, so that when I'm done with one, I put it away and keep it in the car.
Okay, so I think I started prattling on and on at that point. But anyway, you get the idea. So that's basically how my packing looks. And yeah, I was just going to say, if you saw anything white, it was paint and not, it wasn't that I didn't wash my car. Okay. All right. This is one of my favorite things. And Annie Haynes told me about this, so I have to give her credit for that. It's called Lumos. It's a sun tracker, and it's an app on my phone, and you hold it up to the sky. And here's an example. You hold it up to the sky and you can see where the sun is tracking. This is the horizon. So this is where the sun will be coming up and going down. And it really helps me plan for the day, especially when I go someplace that I'm not familiar with the sun and where it's going. The West Coast, I get really mixed up on the West Coast because you can be on the beach, but the sun is setting on the land because we have so many bays that it just because you're on the West Coast doesn't mean the sun is setting out on the water. So it's kind of confusing, and I need this for that. But it's a cool thing. It also shows you where the moon is rising and setting. So if you wanted to consider that with a nocturne, it's helpful. But what I use it for is when I find a really good shade spot, I can see how long that sun is going to stay in the shade. If you look over here, it's 9:21 in the morning when I took this photo, and you can see the sun is starting to poke behind there. So it's very accurate. And you know that by about 10 o'clock, it's going to be up in here. So I'm not going to have any shade anymore. But if I were to set up, the closer you are to a tree, the longer you'll have. I'm further back. but the closer you are up to it, then you're going to have more shade for a longer time. So starting to read the shade is helpful because you can't always have an umbrella, and not just in your painting conditions and what you're painting in, but what you're going to be seeing and how the sun is moving. You kind of want to know what direction the shadows are going. So this is a very useful app that way. The other thing I use a lot is this color. It's a artist view catcher. And I find this, I have Velcroed on my pochade, because as soon as I get out, I want to start narrowing down a scene and not seeing, you've got 360 degrees around you. And it's really overwhelming to figure out what you want to paint. But as soon as you put that thing up and you're looking, you can just find some great little patterns that really help me zero in on what I want to paint. So I highly recommend this as well. So part of that viewfinder is finding interesting compositions. And the idea of no-tans was, I've heard about it off and on, but Richard Robinson, I took a class with him, Scott Hamill, and John Crump. Richard is from, and John are from New Zealand. And the sense of a no-tan is the study of black and white, light and dark, and making it cohesive. It's, like the yin and the yang, that's a no-tan. And I did borrow this from Richard Robinson's short 5-minute video on Google. Just Google it. I would highly recommend looking at it. He explains it beautifully. I was going to play it, but I had a problem with playing it over here. So I actually asked him if I could borrow these images, and within 5 minutes from New Zealand, he answered me last night that, yeah, go ahead. Thanks for asking. So anyway, this is a Degas, and you can see what the design is. The overall design, it takes it all and turns it into an abstract. And you can see, it just makes it, you realize when you bring it down to these basics, what a strong composition it is. You don't know why that painting is so good, but then when you study it in these ways, you see, here's a turn, this is a Turner. And look at how much thought he puts into the light dark pattern in this. It's just gorgeous. And then this is, I think this is Arroyo. I'm assuming it has that look to it, but look at that nice pattern of light and dark. This is a Monet light dark pattern. So you get the idea. It's just taking these big shapes and thinking of them abstractly. And I've got it. It's a little embarrassing to go to mine because remember, these are the masters. This was one I did in Lake Tahoe, and I did this no-tan. And as soon as I did this no-tan in my sketchbook, I go, oh yeah, this is strong, because I loved this play of dark to light and what was going on in this. So I added some grays in this one too, and that's anything goes with art. But it really helped me bring it down to the basics. Another person who teaches this way is Will Mahler. He does this with black and white pastels. So he's actually smudging it with his hand. And if he missed a good light, you can put that in with a white pastel. And then Richard Robinson suggests using those Tombow brush pens, and those are a lot of fun. One reason I'm talking to you about this now, early on, is I'm going to be sharing a 30-minute video of just how I approach things. And what I realized in pulling this whole thing together is that I've gotten away from doing no-tans. And I started using a pencil and sketching it, because I've been around other artists, and that's a wonderful way to go too, is to sketch it with a pencil or a pen. But I think I need to get back into this practice again. So I talk about doing no-tans, but what I'm really showing you are sketches. And this is much more what I'm talking about. So I wanted to introduce that early before we get to that part. This would be a no-tan of one of the paintings I did for the Frank Bet this summer, where I really did see it as a dark shape going across this house over to here. And I just love the way it went across, came down, and there was just so much movement in it because of just the shapes. I knew I wanted, in this sketch, you don't see it, I didn't scoot it over enough, but I knew I wanted enough room over here for a strong dark to bring your eye on down and on over. So that to me was just a really fun light dark study. I had fun with that painting. Okay, so this is my 30-minute video. We're all gonna sit back and relax and enjoy this. I might take a peek over at the chat room to see if you guys are having any questions so far. But let's roll this, and I'll see you on the other side.
I want to show you how to set up for plein air painting. And I'm going to start with my tripod. I use a tripod and I mount a box on it. So I've got two different sizes. I can talk about that a little bit, but there's a little thingamajob right there at the bottom of it. And it fits right into here, real easy. It's a quick release. So it's just, I lay it down and it's in there. I don't have to do a lot of messing around with it, which I highly recommend as a quick release. This is a, I can ask me if you want to know what my equipment is. This is a Sirui tripod. And what I do, if you undo all three legs the same size, then you're going to have it go straight down. And if you have a fairly heavy box on here, any wind or anything is going to make it unstable. So I always have my leading leg, which is the one further away from me, a little bit longer. I use all four sections. And to make it easy for myself, you can barely see it, but there's a piece of red tape or blue tape right here. And that tells me to do all four sections so that you get kind of confused when you're out there and I'm not really thinking about which leg it is. So I extend it out as far as it'll go, twist them all, and that's the longest leg. Then the other two, I just do 3 sections. And I can adjust the longer leg to go out further. And it all stands up fine that way. Okay, this piece of tape is here to remind me that this section is broken and not to use it. You don't have to worry about that. But it's my little shortcut. I always have little guides for myself because, again, I'm not always paying attention when I'm busy looking at my scene and things like that. So, I just unscrewed it too much once, and now it comes all the way out, and I need to get that fixed, but I haven't gotten around to it. And it still works. Anyway, so you put this down like so, and I can't get the distance here that I would like. And these two are where they need to go. This one, you release it here, put it as far as you can. I listen for 2 clicks. So for that. And that is where I'm going to put it. So let me see if I can give you a little example here. So there, it is just a little further out. I'll include some other photos of that, but it's a little further out. And what I can do then is on this longer leg, I can mount my umbrella on there. It just gives me a wider base. Now, with this being further out and the way it's set up, this is a little bit too high for me to work from. Some people like it high, and I kind of keep these legs up, make sure it's all good. And then, so you can adjust this down to where you like it. And then just put your box on. Again, I have 2 sizes. I'll just use a smaller size. This is my travel size. I've gone to Europe with this one. It's like 9 by 12 or smaller and fits in a backpack. This one, when I'm in my car, I like taking, it's like being in my studio. It's a nice big palette for mixing, but this is perfectly adequate. And this is the Strada easel. There are many out there, and this is not a review of all of them. They all have their pros and cons. Now this is a little bit cattywampus, so there's 2 adjustments here that I can just get this to be nice and level. I like mine straight. Some people like to do a vertical so that their palette is in the same light and same plane of light as their
as the painting that they're working on. So there you go. That's it. It's set up. I'm going to bring this on down so that I can talk to you. And I guess one of the things I wanted to show you on this box, actually, it's not here. I usually have one on each box, but right on the box itself, I have a Velcro and I have my viewfinder because it's the first thing I want to grab when I'm out trying to find a scene. And this really helps me narrow down, when I'm looking through it, I can really narrow down, I don't know if I can show you how much of a scene I might want to do. So I have to have this. It's imperative for me. You can do this too, but what I like about this is there are notches that tell you the sizes of canvases here, so you get the right aspect ratio. So what I do is I take all sizes of canvas with me. And I go out and I look for a nice light and dark pattern. And when I find it, I will adjust to see what makes the best size. Do I want a long skinny? Do I want it square? And then I'll often just look on the marks and go, oh, look, that's an 11 by 14. That would be perfect. I got one with me and that's how I'll go. But I'll look for the scene first and then decide the size of the painting after I've figured out what works best. Some paintings really lend themselves to a perfect square. They're tougher, but sometimes it's just like, this is a perfect square. But others, you might do you try it a couple of ways. So the next thing I would typically do is get out even before I open this up, I can use the top of this as a table. And I can start figuring out what I want to paint or draw. So this is my little note handbook, and I started this in 2021. If that says 2021, it's by Robert Bateman, and that I like it because the paper is a little bit thicker, and it's held up well. But what I do is every time I go out, my note hands are terrible, by the way, but it's what I need. It's my shorthand. But every time I go out, I might write down, this is June 14th, I was in San Juan Bautista, and this is when I was doing different compositions for Snow Peas that I saw there. And I'll even write down, I've written down the coordinates for places on my iPhone if I don't know really where I am, because I'll drive and I'll find a place. But this is, a lot of times I'll go someplace and I'll try, would it work well as a horizontal or as a vertical? And I'll do both. And one reason these aren't as clean and beautiful as other people's might be is because I'm kind of rushing through the stage, which I probably shouldn't. And I want to get to the painting, but here I can tell what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking about a pattern of rocks that's going into the lake. And I'm trying to decide which way it looks better. So I will do a couple orientations at that stage. And what I really like about this is that you can see I was even playing with the edge of the canvas, would I want it to go up higher or would I want to go down lower? So it's a small painting, you can change, you can decide to move up as you draw it all out, you go, wait, maybe I should have my horizon lower or higher, or you can change things real quickly. Oh, I write down who I painted with too, that's always kind of fun, in the date. So, and then I'm trying to get better at these. This might be an area where I try to work on harder. But it's an excellent first step because I will also see how much sky am I going to put in there? Where is my horizon line? What is the movement here? And then when I'm going to my canvas, I've already thought through a couple of things. I've often seen where the pitfalls are in this painting. I'll say, oh, I got to avoid the middle of the canvas on that. Move these things over. And on a small scale, I can kind of see things better. I've done some of the architecture too. Let's see, here, hold on. This is my little Italy painting right here. So you can kind of see it go from That's interesting, because I didn't realize this, but I was looking at the other side of the house, doing it from another side. And then I walked around and I decided on this side. So it's kind of interesting. And I think this video might be shooting this backwards. Anyway, so that's a very important part of the beginning, is looking for the scene. And often I'm finding, especially in the morning and afternoon when the sun is lower, I really like things that are backlit because that gives me more shadows. When things are just getting blasted by the sun straight on, it's more flat, the sun's more even over everything. But if it's a little behind the subject, I typically find more interest. If I'm doing architecture, I want one side lit and one side in shadow. I really like those highlights that come from light. So, okay, so I've kind of decided on my thing. Open this up. I've actually even leaned up my book against here so I can keep an eye on what my drawing idea is and maintain some of that. And then the next thing I do, I will be looking through this thing as I'm painting to see that where things are meeting the edge. So it's kind of a drawing skill. I can see, if I'm doing a building, I can see like if it's the dimension, the perspective lines of the building are easier to see when you have a flat edge behind it. It's kind of how I learned how to do perspective drawing. And now I'm trying to be more accurate and use the ideas of perspective drawing and not rely on this. It was sort of a crutch, but it worked, you know. And crutches are okay when you're outside because you need to move quickly. So whatever gets you to do that is what you want, I think. Okay, so I've got my drawing, got a good idea. I maybe grab a canvas and I would stick it right here. Here's some canvases. So here's a small one. And now this is not high enough. This is too low for me. But I'm gonna sit down. I'm not, you can adjust this neck up and down and get it just right. But with a nice wide base, it really helps. Where to set up is a pretty key thing. And I'm looking for my phone and I don't have it. I'm gonna do that in another section, I think. And that is knowing where the sun is going. And I have an app for that. This one's called Lumos. I don't know if it's still available, but if you just say Sun Tracker app, I think you can find one. And it just shows you in the sky where the sun's gonna track. And what I will often do is set up, like say I found a great shade spot. I want to see how long it's going to stay shady. And if I have a couple hours, it's perfect. But that app will show me where that sun's moving and when it's going to start to hit me. It also tells me where the shadows are going to move. So you look to see where the shadows would be falling. And you might be able to decide, like if you get it all blocked in, it's going to be perfect in just a couple of hours because that shadow is going to move here. And I've sometimes anticipated some things by knowing where the sun's moving. It's a pretty key thing. The other important thing about setting up with the sun is what is behind your easel. If you have got a really bright glaring ocean or river or something with a lot of light coming at you, your irises are going to contract and you're not going to be able to see color well. So I like to make sure there's something dark behind my easel, especially when I'm using a small one like this. I've actually done some little things where if it's really glaring, I will kind of stick another one of these boards behind it just to kind of cut out that glare. This one's too big, but you get the idea, so that there's just not so much glare coming in your eyes. It is an issue. But if you can set up where there's something kind of shady behind you, then you're all set. So often
my easel is not directly facing the scene. My easel is going to be facing whatever is easiest for me to see what I'm painting. Okay, those are really key foundations to going outside to paint. It's making sure you've got a stable surface. You will sometimes have situations where you're on a hill or there's a dip in the ground. And what I love about the tripod is you can make one leg longer than the other to adjust to that. So when you get your tripod, just play with all the adjustments of it. It took me a good year to realize how well adjusted I could get this thing. And I wasn't being very mechanical about it. And now I've been surprised when I've painted with people that they haven't really pushed their tripod as far as it could go to make it a better experience for them. A lot of people complain that this is a little bit of a wiggly easel. A lot of people prefer a Julian easel, which is that big wooden box. I find that's a bit heavy for me. I've got a small frame, and I like this setup because I can get everything in the backpack if I use this one. If I use this bigger one, it's a little too big for the backpack, but I'll just carry it with everything else in my backpack. It's not a big deal. With all of this, you're gonna need an umbrella. You can't always find shade. So I've been really happy with the EZL umbrella. And the one thing I might change, which I've noticed, I paint with my friend Randall Stouse, he has a white umbrella, which allows a little bit of light to come through actually, and actually you can see a little bit better underneath it. This one really blocks out the light. So in some ways that's good, but in other ways it's a little bit hard. And what I like about this one is it's so adjustable and it's really sturdy. I can have it going at wild angles and it really holds and it doesn't slip. But this just attaches to one of the, I try to put the tripod like right here in the back because it just gets in my way on the sides. I have paint trays that come out here, so it's difficult. So that's another consideration when I set up is I have to also have a place for the easel and an umbrella, that leg to attach this umbrella on, and the sun has to be between me and the top of the umbrella. No, this needs to be between me and the sun. So yeah, so that is another consideration, and that takes a little while to figure all that out. But if you notice me, like when I first get someplace, I'm figuring out about 5 things like that about the sun, not just where it's going to affect how the painting looks, but how I'm going to be working underneath it and be able to deal with that. It's going to move, and you're going to need to adjust your umbrella constantly, and not constantly, but every 30 minutes or so. I could put this on, but it's going to take some time, and but it just goes on here, and then this is on a swivel, and so you can get it and a swivel and it'll just stick way out, and this screws on really, really well, so it just stays there really good. I recommend it if they still make it. A lot of these places, I don't know, I'm realizing how precious these materials are because they're hard to get. Okay, now for paint. A lot of people put the paint right on here. They take their tubes out in the field and they put them out fresh. I take my tubes, leave them in the car because I'm already preloaded. This is left over from my last painting session. I haven't updated it, but this whole box when I come home, I stick in my freezer. So I really like that aspect of it. Yeah, I really used up my paint. But anyway, I was down at the beach this week. These are my paints, and I just hook them right on here. And I'm right-handed. I accidentally started it on my left hand side. And I thought, oh man, I put it on the wrong side because I didn't realize which way they went. But I'm actually kind of glad it's on the left because I think I would drag my arm in here more when I'm painting. So I'm just going over here to dip and to mix, and I think it's okay. It's been working for me. Took me a little while to get used to the paints over here and not right on my palette, but I'm really glad I have it this way now. I like it because I can put this lid on, stick it into my backpack, and not worry about paint getting all over the place. Okay, so the next little thing I want to show you, I'm very proud of this invention. This is an old shampoo bottle, and I liked it because it has flat sides. And I take a clip here, and I've got everything I need in here for drawing and palette knives and things like that. So I just clip it to the side of my tray. And I've got a place to like throw my brushes, which I love. So I'll start with a handful of brushes in here. And then when I'm done, as they get dirty, I lay them here on this extra side table. This sometimes gets paint on it. So if I get really kind of particular and if it's really a big mess, I'll throw a piece of paper towel right down here, and I can even clip this on the towel so if the wind comes, it doesn't make a mess. But it gives me kind of a clean table. So I like that. So it's nice and clean right there, and I don't make a mess if that little goo that's here doesn't, look at that. There's already goo on there. Anyway, so there's that. I want to fill that up, but I'm not going to. Other things that I have, I've got this on the back. Oh, my OMS can. So OMS is odorless mineral spirits. And yes, they are odorless. That doesn't mean you're not breathing them. And one reason I paint outside is because of this. This is a solvent. It's by Gamsol, it is called Gamsol, and it's by Gamblin. And it's a great product. It works really well. And what I did is the Strata easel provides these little hooks, and I lost mine. And I asked them for another one for $5. They sent it to me and they said, just crimp it on your can so that you never lose it. I go, well, that's brilliant. So I crimp mine on and I never lose it now. And it's one less step. I used to have a separate hook and have to find it and make sure I didn't lose it. And that's great. And then you see all this junk right here, and it's more Velcro. So the other thing that I kept doing is losing my lid, or it would fall off, or it would be, I don't know, just be one more step. I have some Velcro on the side here, and I just kind of lean it up against there. So it's just off there, but it's easy to find. The other thing I did was I was looking for something for my medium, because when you're painting in oil, you might want to have just a little bit of linseed oil or something like that. So I Velcroed on contact lens case, and I just have, because it doesn't leak, it's really good. And then it's always there. I just close the lid, it's short enough, and I never have to find that piece and put it down. I'm ready to go. So I have linseed oil in these little guys. And it's just the same thing in both, but if you had something else you wanted, see, there's some there. Anyway, that's my other little trick. So my point is to try to get, I'm gonna put this lid on because I really shouldn't be breathing this stuff, is you wanna make everything as few steps as possible to make it just go quickly. And it takes a long time to figure out all these little tricks. But when you do it, really, you don't even think about setting up so much anymore. It's really not that big of a deal. So the other thing I always have is this seems like a ridiculous $20 investment, but I am so glad I have it. It folds up flat, it works in my, it's always in my backpack. And then there's a little hook that you can't see, but it's on the bottom here. And I actually put another ribbon here, and you can just go like that, but it kind of opens it up a little bit more. And what I love about this is the wind goes through it, and it's not like a bag where it's blowing all over the place. You can use a plastic bag, put a couple rocks in it so it stays down, it doesn't blow all over. That's one idea. But I love this because as often as I paint, it was a worthy investment. If you're not gonna paint, if you're gonna just go out once a week, just plastic bag's fine. But then I also have to bring a plastic bag along because then when I want to fold it flat again, I can't with the garbage in it. So I'm either hauling it out in a little bag, or I have a plastic bag with me, throw it in, fold that guy up and stick it back in my backpack when I'm ready to pack up. Okay, and what else was I gonna tell you? That is cool. Always I have my bunch of brushes with me that I'll usually put this down on the ground and pick a few and stick it in my cup. And really, I only use about 4 brushes, so I really need to trim this amount down. I also always have gloves, and I highly recommend wearing gloves because then you can eat your lunch and not wash your hands. It's just much better to have some gloves along. So I have some gloves. I have some chapstick in here, so it reminds me when I'm putting on my gloves that I should put on some chapstick. I always put sunscreen on before I go painting, but I have some in my car you need to have sunscreen, you need to have a hat. In my backpack, I just unloaded my backpack last night on this table so you can see everything I carry. I also have 2 of these free sample bottles of Gamsol. In case a wind comes, I'm in the middle of a painting and everything gets blown over. I've got some spare with me because this is the one thing you really kind of need. I've lent it more than I've used it myself. It seems like a lot of people I paint with get blown over, and they haven't taken my tutorial on how to set up. I just saw these in my backpack. I forgot I had them. Hand warmers. This is my tool for tightening up my tripod. Once in a while that gets loose, and I'm glad I have it. These are some glasses that my brother-in-law, who works at Sight for Sore Eyes in Capitola, it's his business. This is, that was a little plug. He made these for me. They are just UV glasses. So they look really dumb, but they are great because they cut out the glare. So, and I can't really even though they look so dark on me, they don't really change the color greatly. So once in a while, I'll pull these out if it's just too bright. But it's an idea. You might talk to your optometrist about just getting UV glasses only. And I'll have a granola bar with me. I'm now carrying a mask. A straight edge is a really nice thing to have. And I've got this, I don't have it with me. It's in my car because I was doing landscape and I knew I wouldn't need a straight edge. But actually you do when you do, and then I realized I needed it because to do a straight horizon line, it's really nice to have a straight line. And what I did when I didn't have this little special stick that I have is I'll just use the edge of the canvas. But I usually have at least 2 canvases with me, and then you can just paint that. And so there's other workarounds. But this little piece, it's like a ruler, but there's little tiny finishing nails in it. And I have to be careful where I put it. I actually stick it inside my paper towel hole so that it doesn't scratch something in my backpack. But you can lay it right on your painting, and it's the little tiny nails that touch the painting, not the whole board. So if I'm doing a whole house kind of a thing, I've got a straight edge that I can, kind of go down. I don't always use it, honestly, and you can probably tell by my paintings they're not perfectly perfect, but that's okay, right? Oh, and then this guy, I don't like them this big. I usually wait until they get smaller. But I was getting this bad habit of putting it under my arm. I'm trying not to do that. I know an artist that said that his back got all out of whack from that. So don't do that. What I'll do is I'll just tear off a few pieces and stick the rest in my garbage can. I don't put that much garbage in here that a paper towel roll doesn't hurt anything. You could put a little bungee cord through here and hang it, if you use it a lot, but that's a lot. It's just one more step, and just throwing it in here is good enough for me. Boy, I've given you a lot of information. What else do I carry with me? Always have some water with me. And my wet panel carriers. When I'm all done with this masterpiece created from not enough paint, put everything in a wet panel carrier. This one's by Raymar. It's sort of the name for wet panel carriers. And I like this one because this particular one is, it's got 3 size slots. So it's got an 11 width, 10 and a 9. So I can get 11 by 14 here. And oh, I'm sorry, I'm not showing you. Can you see there's 3 different slots? And so I can get 11, a 10 by 8 or a 10 by 10. And then the 9 slot, I can get a 9 by 12 and those are the sizes I usually paint. There's another one that's 12, 11, and 10. So I can do 12 by 16, 12 by 12, and I use that one all the time. So that when I'm going out, I have 3 sizes with me. Okay, so I have a tag on it. I have 3 sizes with me, and I can choose what one I want to use. If I go out where I have to hike in a bit, I've got this kind, which is by Panel Pack. And this, they sell them, I like the 8 by 10 and the 9 by 12 because they fit right in my backpack. But what it is you get, you have to have 2 because one goes in here and one goes in the other side. So if this is your wet painting, you carefully lay it down and then you put another one to protect it. So if you have to have 2, you really have to have 3 because if you go out in the morning, you paint one, and then you go out in the afternoon, you have to have something to cover the one that you're gonna do while you do the second one. Otherwise, your morning painting is exposed. So that took me a little while to figure that one out. There's a little nugget for you.
Okay. So, boy, I'm so glad I didn't have to do that live. I would never have had the frame of mind to go through that whole process. It's anyway, I hope that wasn't too much information. I hope it helps you out. And I'll just stop for a minute if there is anything in this little clip that you have questions about, but I still have plenty left to cover. So don't feel obligated to ask, but if you have any questions, pipe up. I'm not seeing anything on the chat room, so I'll just keep on going. Let's go outside now and figure out how to start a painting when you're outside. This is one I did last summer up in Tahoe. I was out walking my dog, and I always walk by this this scene. It's close to where our place is up there. And I loved, I was very excited because I've never seen the garage door open on this place. So I actually asked the guy, are you going to be keeping your garage door open for a while? And he looked at me like, what? Who's asking? But I said, well, I'm thinking about painting it, and it would be really nice to have it open, because that was the intrigue of the whole painting, was that darkness in there to me. I mean, the other stuff is cool too, but he said, yeah, it's going to be open for a while. He said, but I'm going to be washing my car. No, how do you say it? He said, I got to get my car washed. I go, oh, that'd be great, because there'll be puddles. That'll be great. Yeah, go. That'll be fine. So I came back and I set up. This is the scene that I was looking at. And then this is me trying to figure out what to paint in the scene and how to frame it. So this would be a no-tan. This would be the no-tan I should have made, but I did it last night, so I kind of cheated. But this is the light-dark study of that, and how light reveals itself by the dark behind it. That's what I loved about that barn, is like you see light with the dark. So then the next thing I do after I have a good idea of the composition is to just go ahead and mix 5 or 6 colors. Values would be the better word. and you can see what I did here. I just went with, here's the barn. That's the light of the barn. That's the dark shadow across the barn. This is the garage part of the barn. This is the light of the trees in the background. This is that gray house in the back. So they're just like 5 pools, and that's it. And then you just treat it like a poster and just start putting those in. And as you cover the canvas, you'll start seeing how to adjust them. But you have to start somewhere. So I do a little bit of a drawing. In this case, I drew in with paint. I've also drawn in with charcoal, because charcoal you can erase kind of too, but I'll go either way. So I was just kind of sketching out where everything goes and started laying in my darks. And once I put the darks in, like I said, of those trees, I could see where that gray house was. And then I heard the guy asking his wife for the keys to the Jeep. And I said, he's not going to wash the car there. He's going to take it away. So I quickly stopped everything I was doing on the big shapes, because I really wanted to get that red Jeep, and I knew it would never be parked like that again. And so I looked at the timestamp on my phone, and that this was at 11:12, and this was at 11:23. So that was an 11-minute Jeep. And I was kind of going back and forth between those a day. And you notice that I also worked on the car behind it, the truck, because I needed to get a relationship between the two. I couldn't just do the red Jeep. I had to know where that roof line was with those two. So anyway, those are the kind of funny things that happen when you're outside. You've got to like move fast and listen and figure out what's going to happen next. So then, you know, you can go this backwards, forwards, working on more shapes. Then this is, you know, again, I'm just filling it all in. And as I'm working from those pools of value colors that I worked on, I start adjusting them a little bit, but I can't really until everything's laid in. So I don't go left to right. I go all over the place, and I'm putting in the big shapes first. This is at about 12:30, and this is about 1 o'clock. This is about where I ended that day. To be honest, I know I went back twice, but I kind of remember tweaking it inside too. So this is how it ended up. Okay, so this was the end of the first day, and that's the final painting. So that's one little, I'm sorry, I have this kind of wiggles sometimes, sorry. So find the scene that tells a story. And I guess that was one thing I want to tell you about, about why are you doing that? Okay. Okay, this is what I want to show you. This was the way it ended. Look at the bottom shadow across the bottom. I looked at that when I got home. I said, that looks like the shadow is coming from right to left, and the sun was on the other side, you know, on my left going across. So that was one thing I fixed. But I'm also kind of telling a story that down here, there's trees outside of the frame. So it's, you know, stories can be all kinds of things. It can be very subtle. But, you know, in this case, it's like this place in a forest, and that these cars are haphazardly arranged, and it's just a moment in time, and things, you know, it's a working environment. That's what I liked about this story. So that was that story. Composed with the large shapes, and use your lights and your darks to create an interest. And then mix 2 or 3 light values, 2 or 3 dark values at one time. So I'm looking at the scene at this moment in time, and what are those colors just right now? I know it's going to change, but we're just going to call it now and mix some colors. So that's what I do. And then I only spend 2.5 to 3 hours at the most painting. And the best thing to do would be to stop then and come back later, because the lighting changes so drastically. It is okay to do adjustments in the studio. For a plein air competition, I don't do it, but okay, I will do some adjustments. I mean, there's things that, you know, it goes in a wet panel carrier and your sky gets messed up and things like that. So I'll clean up a couple of things, but I don't do major changes to it in a competition. But you know, art really has no rules. You do what you need to do to create a nice painting. That's That's my rule. Okay, so now I want to talk about one that I did in my studio this week, just for you, just for this session. And I'm seeing a question. I'm going to answer it now, Andrea Bishop. The name of the umbrella is, it's by EZL, and I think it's Best Brella, I believe. But go on the EZL, and EZL is actually the name of their brand, and I think the name of the company is Art Essentials or Artwork Essentials. Check that out. Okay, so this is a scene that I saw driving back from Southern Oregon. It was in September, and we know what that was like in California, lots of smoke particulates in the air. But I love this picture because I thought it would be a good demo piece. It had some nice big shapes. And that's my note-in on the bottom. Just a simple idea of just these darks that start over here and go across. Oh God, I just love the beginning of some of these videos. Okay, so I'm going to hit play really fast so you don't have to look at that. Okay, but this is me explaining. Oh, this is me putting in the drawing. So in this case, I used charcoal just to sketch it all out really quick. That was 8 seconds. All right, so now I'm going to talk to you about just a 10-minute video on how I do the color, talking about color, because I know one question always is, what are the colors? And transparent paint.
Okay, I want to talk a little bit about paint. And I'm going to cut my head off here. It's just easier. I will often bring out in the field just a few less gasps of paint, just so I have it handy. These are actually a little more full. Always need extra white. That's the one color you go through a lot. And just your primary colors, basically. I'll go through my palette. But it's just a nice little thing to have in my car or whatever. It's just my spare. These are my spares. But I typically will fill up my my painting. I've got my paint trays. I fill them up here underneath here. There's drawers of paints. And I'm starting to get into the larger tubes. This one's mostly full. I'm going to show you when I put this white down. This is a really invaluable little tool for you to have. It gets out all my paint in a tube. I don't ever waste any. So you just squeeze this baby, and you can get that. Oopsie, you can get that last bit of paint out a little easier that way. And it's not working right now, but it works really well usually. Just not when the camera's on. There's a little white. I usually put more than that on, but I'm in my studio, so I can always fill in. I use mostly Gamblin paints. I just find they're great. One thing I usually do before I go to paint, and I kind of wish I'd done it here, I got busy drawing on it, is I will prime my canvas with this Gamblin transparent earth red. And it's a transparent color. I need to talk about transparent colors. Meaning that it's got kind of more of an oily sense to it. It's not opaque where it cakes on more. So I like putting like a wash of this on before I paint. I let it dry. Here's one that's already done. It just, instead of painting on white, especially when you're out in the sun, it's really helpful. It also, when you don't cover it well, you've got something underneath there that kind of brings some warmth into it. I've used different colors behind it. It's fun to try different ones. I've done reds, and I've done really dark colors when I want to do a nocturne. But I also should mention to you, I use, I'm starting to go into these a little more. They're really expensive, I think. But when I can, like when I traveled to France, I bought a bunch of these because I thought I just wanted to treat myself. I use the 1/8 inch, it's on birch wood, and it's 13 Clausens. It's the smoothest one. I know Matt Smith likes whatever, 60 or 65 or 66. It's a little rougher, but I like the smooth. And I was gonna knock something over. I also use, and I don't have them here, mostly I use Centurion, which I get, they're a really nice oil prime canvas that I get from Jerry's Artorama. And Centurion comes in a lot of different sizes. This is one, which is an odd size. This is 10 by 20. I thought about, the only way to tell you about plein air painting is when you're doing it. Now I lost my lid. When you're doing it, you think about things. And I can't, oh, it's already on there. Okay, anyway, you think about things and you don't think about them until you're doing them. So I thought, well, maybe I'll just do a quick little demo so that I don't forget telling you about some things. And my palette is white. This is a different color. It's a buff titanium. And I just started using it because I had one and I really liked it, because if I need a sand color or something, it's kind of a taupey white. And it's not necessary I could create that, but when you're plein air painting, some shortcuts are kind of nice. And it was cheap paint too. I mean, I don't think that means it's bad, but it was reasonable. Oh, here it is. I use this Georgian, and it's a big tube. It's called Buff Titanium, and I really liked it. I like the butteriness of it. This lemon yellow, cad yellow, medium, yellow ochre, I've got to have. If I had to just cut it down to primary colors and one other, I think that it would be yellow ochre. It helps me with my grays. Orange, red, and I'm experimenting with different reds here. I think I'm moving. I used to go with a cad medium, but maybe because it's fall time right now, I'm really liking the cad red light. And then I read an alizarin, or right now I'm using quinacridone magenta, and it really gives me a lot of pop. Blue ultramarine is my ultramarine. I added this yellow, Phelan yellow. It's one that I got in a Matt Smith workshop. It's by pre-tested Grumbacher. It's cheap. And it's got some phthalo in it, and you never use it by itself. It's a great mixed color, and I'll add it to blues, or I'll make a gray out of it. Add purple, it makes a great gray. It's a fun one. Sap green. I am concerned about fugitive colors, which means colors that change over time, and you might not have the consistency of the color. And so that's one reason why I took alizarin crimson off my palette and switched it with quinacridone. I was a little concerned that alizarin crimson might change over time. Sap might be doing the same thing, I'm not sure, but make sure it says permanent on there when you use it. Then there's my red, I keep calling it transparent red oxide, but because it's whatever I just said it was, earth red or something. Okay, so that's the main ones I use. And then down here are extras. And often like this odd color right here, it's kind of a gray green. That was the last time I painted. I took all my paint, scraped together, and just put it in a mush. And sometimes it's nice to have a quick gray to go to, and that'll just get me started. Then I've got, I'll use these Gamblin called Radiant colors. And I use a few of them just for some, to quickly move my paint, change the temperature, just to adjust it. I do use them in the sky too. Throw some white in it, and it's a quick way to get some great sky color. And so I use this turquoise, the radiant blue, and the radiant pinks. There's two of them, and I go back and forth on them. Sometimes I put them both out. And then there's a violet I sometimes put out. And then a little in the very, very corner of my palette, away from everything in the world, is phthalo blue. I rarely dip into it, but sometimes I really need to bring a punch up, and I'll use it for that. Phthalo blue is one you have to be really careful with. It can take over your whole palette. I would always hear that, and I've seen it now. I understand what people are saying. It kind of just bleeds into things. So it's more of a stain than a paint. So I'm careful about that. There's some left over here where I maybe, when I'm changing out my palette, sometimes there's really nice fresh piles in here after a painting trip. And I'll mix some fun little colors up, and it's amazing that sometimes the next time I go, it's just the right colors. So those are the mainstays. I mentioned transparent colors and opaque colors. So your transparent colors are thinner washes, and it's good to start with those. And so transparents would be your ultramarine, your quinacridone, and the earth red and sap green. And then together those make a really nice dark. And because I start my compositions with the dark pattern, I start with the transparents, this transparent color, and that's perfect because if you go straight into opaques, things get chalky. Opaque colors, your yellows adding white to anything, your oranges, reds, ochres especially, those have more of a thicker opaqueness to them. So I try to save those a little bit later, but get everything down with transparent. And what I'll do, like with this, is I'm going to put in the darks of the trees and get a sense of what the composition is. And then as quickly as possible, I'll put in what my sky and the other lights are so that all of them relate to each other. I'm not working outside, unfortunately. I've got a picture on my screen, but it's just way too hard to film this live. So it'll just have to be my thought process of what I go through. And I think it's a fair enough just to give you the ideas. Anyway, I'm going to think that's what I wanted to cover right now.
Okay. It would be nice if I figured out how to clip my films a little better. But anyway, this is, I'm my own videographer. So when you watch the next things, something that I'm going to mention is when I talk about putting in darks, you see, I've got a tree line here that's going to go in a tree line here. And you're going to watch me do these in a kind of a brown and a warm, and these in kind of a blue. And it was pretty intentional. Yes, those are going to be green trees at the end, but often I like to put in the opposite, especially with greens, to get a little warmth underneath them in a transparent color, because then that kind of comes through later on. You'll get bits and pieces of the warmth coming through. So I treat the two sides differently, and you won't see that quite yet. You're going to see me mix my paint first before I do the quick demo of actually painting.
Okay, after I've gotten my sketch down, I mix some darks in pools of darks that I can dip into. So, and I try not to add any white to these right now. I want to get, well, no, wait, that's not true. Okay, I'm going to get 5 values out of my scene right here, okay? So I'm gonna get a couple of darks, and then I'm gonna get a couple of lights, and then that medium tone. Now, we know that the sun, this was, one of those, I think I was driving up to Lake Tahoe, my husband was driving up to Lake Tahoe, and I was taking photos. And there was that filtered light of the smoke because it was in September. And I'm dipping right into this gray pool that I had from yesterday's paintings for that road. It's kind of perfect. I'm gonna add some blue to it. I should use yesterday's blue here, that's that pile. And there's my road. And then, so there's a couple tree things going. I'm gonna get the mountains here. So those are quite a bit, these are my lights over here. And I'm gonna put a little bit of pale blue in there, just to bring that down a little bit, gray a little bit. And that's a little too green. So I like to have some sizable pools to work with. And when I'm done, I scrape it and have it so it's kind of fluffed up. That way I can put my brush in there and get it on and stick it down. If it's all spread out all over like these are, it's okay for laying in some darks, anyway, how that paint is, I mean, you need to put enough in, you need to think about how you're gonna load your brush up. That's kind of important for brush work. Okay, I'm seeing a beautiful blue back there, so that in the back mountain. So let's try this with just white and ultramarine. And then that's just too blue. So when things are too blue, sometimes I don't even wipe my palette knife off because there's something on there that just helped me to run it down. Some of that color was left, and that's kind of perfect. And then I can even, if that's too white now, I can pull in some of this buff. And actually I had it better before, but I wanted to get enough paint down here to show you. Now I've got too much. Okay, that's too bright. So if it's too bright, a blue, put a little orange in it. That's maybe too much orange because orange is really powerful. So I'll put it off to the side. So it's just a little bit, I can always get more. And that's a little better, but I'm seeing some green in there. Yeah, there we go. That's getting there. And maybe a little more of this buff. I want it to be different from this pile because this is the layering, but they're kind of shades of gray going back there. Okay. No, it needs to be lighter yet. I'll be putting out some more white. Okay. There, I think it's a good start. So these piles are just a start. They are not the final color at all, but I will quickly put it all in so I have something to compare everything to. And in my drawing, I kind of brought the mountains up a little higher just because I don't want all sky. And we could be closer up and they could be filling. So it's not a stretch that would happen. Interesting. The back of that streamline, what do you call them? Airstream is darker. I'm already squinting. When I'm out, I'm squinting a lot. So I take out all the details and I can see just how the darks correspond to each other. And I think the darkest darks in that photo are underneath the Airstream and all on that right side. And what I like about this photo is I can get like a dark pattern going across. A really strong painting, your darks are kind of connected. And that's what I was kind of looking, that's one of the things I liked about this painting was there was this dark mass and the darks slightly stay across here, pop up again, and then you get these layering behind. I don't know, it's a simple idea, simple palette. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so that's just a little bit about mixing. I'm gonna maybe time lapse this for a little bit so it's not so boring.
Okay, and I'm going to apologize in advance that because I'm my own videographer, I didn't really, next time I will tie my hair back. I got my hair in the way a bit, so I apologize now, but that's, here we go. It's quick. Oh, and halfway through this, I put a clock right over here by my computer. A couple of things to look at is that I work the whole canvas. I'm not going left to right. I'm putting everything in at one time. Another thing that's fun to look at is what the palette looks like in time lapse. You see the colors just being built and spooling off colors. So here we go. And I apologize for my dog barking. I hope my husband takes care of that situation. So you see how it's warmer on the left side? And I'm just putting in big, huge chunks. Yeah, it's when it gets dark in California, she just starts barking. I'm so sorry. So this was 55 minutes. That clock goes for 55 minutes. So, actually what I found in doing this week was like, this is so much easier in a studio, but I'm not supposed to be saying that. I'm supposed to be encouraging you to get out, but it was kind of fun for a change. All right, so this is refining the block-ins. So I went and had lunch after that, and I came back, I saw all kinds of problems, and I'm going to talk you through those.
Okay, I was looking at this, a replay of what I did to make sure my sound and everything was okay, and I apologize for getting in front of the screen sometimes. But in doing so, I was noticing how that road is coming at much more of an angle than I have it here. So I've got some drawing issues here, which I often do because I get so excited to start painting and I'm not careful enough. But let me work on that a little bit. I think it's a good point to do that. And I'll keep it rolling so you can see some of the things I do, not at warp speed this time.
Nice
I'm
to see
thinking,
it.
you know, just
Sorry.
taking my rag and bringing that more like that, just to see what these lines are. This coming more like this, that line. And then there's this little dotted line. I don't want anything going straight into the corner. It's just kind of tacky. And I don't know if it's tacky is the word. It's not very thought out. It's not well thought out when it goes to the corner. But there's like kind of a little bit of dotted line coming in here, just so I kind of know what those planes are. And I think already that's a little better. This also this is going to come down much more on its slant. I think that's what it is. This needs to come down here. And I think that's it. Pardon my back. I think that's the problem. If this is more, it just needs to come lower. Let's see here where I'm going and where I am. This is just for drawing purposes. I think that might be a little better. Okay. And then this was kind of thick on here, and I kind of wanted to thin this out a little bit. That was bugging me. And then we're going to have these other trees coming down in here too. Just a couple little guys. I realize that when I'm doing it so fast, you're not really seeing my brush work, but I'm giving you so much information beyond this demo that I don't think there's time for a full demo and all the information I'm trying to impart to you. This was not dark enough, so I wanted to get that a little darker. Just go slow a little bit. And I forgot to put my little, the stuff I use, the medium I use usually. Maybe there's some in here. Nope, I don't have any right now. So I'll bring it up. I just dip it into the OMS when I don't have it, but I prefer it's too dark. So the foreground could be maybe a little dark. It could be some things going on in here.
I'm using filbert brushes usually around size 6, 8-ish. Once in a while,
you know what's so nice about these pools of color.
Oh, that's someone else is talking.
You try to put down a sizable amount. I had the hardest time when I started painting with using enough paint. And once I went to some workshops. I went to John Cosby's workshop, which is wonderful. I recommend. He had a lot of the things a lot of things I'm talking about here. It's what I learned from him years ago, and I still use. So I'd say that's a good workshop. But he would show us to put the pools of color out, and then you can spin off them. You know, you can make them lighter or brighter, but keeping your mother color that you start with in the middle and then spooling off that was a really clever way to do it. I'm not quite that neat to spool and keep the mother color, because often he would come back to that, dip back into it, and it was really made a lot of sense when you watch him do it. But I like having enough paint that eventually all my pools collide, but I've got something out there and I don't have to always go over here. I've got a mix here, and I think that might be key to color harmony, is having sort of a palette of color in here that you're working off of once you've mixed some basic colors out. And that's really helped a lot. Okay, so a lot of this stuff is going to be hard to do. I need to be really right up to my canvas to do some of this fine work, the railing, some of the lights that I'm going to have to put in here. Ooh, I want this to come down lower. I really like how this is. Some of this, I want a little bit of light, a little bit of that tree line coming, but not, doesn't have to be that much. And then, yeah, okay. And if I'm going to do that, let's get back to that road again. And I notice that the road gets lighter as it goes back in this case. So I'm going to follow with that. Am I in your way? Okay, you can kind of see me. All right, back in here, just, so then I start thinking about color temperature. Color temperature is how warm or cool it is. And that's why these pools are great, because you start with something and then you start looking at it and going, is it warmer or cooler? You know, and that is the next thing. That, see, I think there's too much space in here. I think, okay, I'm going to show you what we do when we screw up. I like that little truck, but you know, you did it once in about 2 seconds, you can do it again. So I think sometimes it's just as well to see how to fix a mistake as how to do it perfectly. Because none of us can do it perfectly the first time or the third time, anytime. See, I think they need to relate more. So if this guy, if he's really over there, which I don't think he is, but we're going to say he is, this guy is going to come here. And I think, and then I don't want to put anything right smack dab in the middle. That's the middle. So it would be better to have it off to the right a little bit and get a little smaller of a brush. And if this is, we have to figure out where it is on the road. So if this is truly this line coming down here, this is truly this line coming there. He has got to be, he or she has got to be on that side of the line. And then there's the window, there's the kind of the bumper. So the bumper is facing me. There's wheels always down below. And then there's a shadow, a real, in this case, that I went up and looked, the shadows barely can see it that far back. But that's what makes a car look like a car, kind of. Now, is that, the height of that, okay with the height of that? I think if I highlight it, I think it'd be fine. And then this dark is gonna come over behind it. Okay, so this guy goes like this. And this guy is gonna keep wrapping around. Okay, I think that'll work. And then all I have to do, since I know you wanna see me do it, and it's a little early to do this, so I'm breaking my own rule. I don't like to put my lights in too early, but I'll do it for you. Wait, who is my brushes? This is too big. These little lights, I'll just try this guy. I see I don't have that many lights mixed up. I liked the idea when I had it in there that maybe this is kind of a beigey truck, not a white truck. And just to give it something different from this. And if that's the window, this is the top. Kind of like that. Can you see? And then this is the hood. And I'm always kind of thinking about what is that shape in relationship to the window? And in relationship to the sides. And cars, I've been painting a lot of cars. In fact, probably what I was doing when we were driving is I actually do, when my husband's driving and we're on long trips, I do car, what do you call those fast gesture drawings that you do in a figure drawing class? Well, I do them with cars. So as we're coming along, I'll see how fast I can get the idea of the sides of a car and just the basics of a car. And it's just sort of a silly game I play with myself. And it's like, I call it, it's like gesture drawing, when I can think of the word. And it's kind of a fun thing to try. And it's really helped my cars a lot by practicing all the time. My point of it was to see how little I can put down to make it look like a car. Because that's basically painting is. How, you know, what are the main essentials of making something look like something? At least for me, that's what it is. I don't want to, yeah, I can look at a photograph like this and get every little bit in, but that's not much fun. I like how this is just like open here. And then there's another one here. To me, it's about getting the sense of it. And then we wanted to get this, oh God, it was really blue down in here. Really blue down, but not that down. No, that's too light. I know what I'm after. You know, sometimes a little bit of red with your greens grays it. When you put your complementary colors together, you're graying it. That's how you get a gray. Any two complementary colors together makes a gray. So in pushing greens back, I thought they had to just get bluer and bluer and bluer. And then I was out painting with my friend Paul Cratter, and he said, try a little bit of red. And if anyone knows anything about greens and nature, it would be Mr. Cratter. And he was right, just a touch of red, and it pushed it back. It was really cool. Okay, this can still be that bluish, grayish. Okay, oh yeah, I like that. And then I also like that this truck is kind of beigey instead of white, because there's going to be kind of a little bit of purple behind it. I'm always thinking about complementary colors. If not to mix my grays, then to put them next to each other. This is an interesting palette, but I kind of responded to that when I was choosing this painting or this photo to paint from. I thought it was good because it was good basic shapes, and I thought it would make a decent demo piece. Okay. All right, how long have I been on here? This is 13 minutes, that's enough.
Okay. I think it's going to go faster from here, but I hope that was useful in showing that you're just constantly at that stage that you're really starting to refine where your lights are and how everything is relating in these layering, the layering masses going back. Then this is, now you just got a 20-second time lapse. This is where I was saying you kind of, I'm going to play it twice. Once you can watch the canvas, and the second time you can watch the palette because it's only 27 seconds, okay? So just finishing up on the canvas. You know, I'm looking at my iPad version of this, and it looks like it's not getting every frame of my videos. And I hope it's better experience for you, because on my computer, it's perfect. But not this time, you can look at the palette. Just to, whoopsie, that was the finished painting. Just look at how the different colors get slapped on, and I'm constantly pulling color off of something. And yeah, I'm dipping into the palette where my pure color is, but I'm also adjusting a lot of what's on the palette already. And then the clock is a lot of fun. I like watching the clock. Anyway, we'll move on to the next. And this is the final painting. And I wanted to show you a quick one I did in Alameda. This is just a quick demo of, I was my very first Frank Bet plein air. And I went, you know, a month early just to look for different things to paint. And I really fell in love with this building. So I went in the morning and I checked out that light. And then I went in the afternoon and checked out that light to decide which one I would want. And then whenever I walk around and take pictures, I only take pictures from places that I can actually stand to paint. I mean, physically stand to paint. So, I don't ever want to stand in the middle of the road and take this wonderful picture, go home, look at it, go, oh yeah, that's it. I only want my options to be where it's actually physically possible to paint. So I was choosing between these and I came up with this big one right here. And I really like the way it fit in the square. And I really like the fact that Barbara Tapp, who is a fabulous painter, watercolor painter, love the same exact scene in a square from the exact same viewpoint. We just thought that was really fun. And Margaret ended up buying that painting. And it also got the Frank Bet Award that year. Okay, so this is my fake ending. If we are finished, I'll go through the next really quickly. This is one I did of a truck in my neighborhood. This is a COVID painting where I went on someone's property. These are 4 different views of it. And I was trying to decide which one would be best, that would highlight the truck the best. This one, I liked it, but it was just too frontal. I wanted to get that front grille. This one, I got the front grille, but this diagonal over here was just a bit strong with this car. It was just too much like popping out at me. I was tempted to do this one. I really liked it. I liked that this was dark in here and there's just a bit of light on here. And I liked how it corresponded with his. But I was standing right on his front porch and you could see right into his kitchen and it seemed a little bit obtrusive. So I went over to this barn over here and there was shade. You can see that's my backpack right there. There's shade against that barn all day. So that's where I opted to stand to paint this scene. So I had the shade on me, which I keep talking about sun and shade, but I guess, you know, standing straight out in the sun is fine in the fall and the winter, but in the summer, it's not so great. So this would be the no tan for that. The dark shape behind it, getting the angles and just the feel for it. This would be a quick charcoal drawing of what I was going to do. And then my pools of color for each of those things, the dark tree in the background, the house was yellow, but it had sort of a shadow, this color. The truck was in these colors, and the ground, I was trying to distinguish between the light of the house and the ground. So I go straight in with the darks and do those first with transparent color. And then this is the totally ugly stage. There are many stages that I am ready to throw it away, but I kept with this one. This is a 14 by 18, which is pretty big for plein air for me. And then this was, oh gosh, this is how it ended that day, which is really pretty pathetic. I mean, it's not terrible, but look at that white door in the shade. It's about the same color as that. I realized that when I went home, and it doesn't look like it's stuck back in that painting. So I came home, I looked at my photos, I really studied it. And then I actually put a photo of my painting on Procreate on my iPad, and I played with it some more there. And then I went into the painting the next day. I went back again and I finished this. Okay, that I think, okay, first I'm gonna open it up for some questions. Are there any? I've done a lot of talking. So what do we have here? Anyone have any questions?
Perhaps everybody can unmute now and turn your video back on, and you'll be able to see Nancy.
Oh, am I supposed to stop sharing?
That would be good.
You know what? Before I stop sharing, I'm going to put in my plug for Frank Bet because I think
Do.
that's important.
Yeah.
Okay, they give me a stipend for this, but to be very honest, I spent a lot of time on this presentation. And the reason I appreciate that I get a stipend is that if they're going to pay me, I'm going to work really hard to give you guys everything I got on this. And it may not be the best plein air presentation you've ever seen, but it's the best I could do. So I would like to ask you, instead of saying thank you or anything else, would you think about maybe writing a little donation to Frank Bet for providing these demos to you? And you can get, you know how to get them, but if you don't want to just give them a straight donation, if you'd like to get something back for it, I would be very happy for you to go to my Etsy and you go ahead and buy a calendar from me. I'll get it in the mail. You'll get it by Christmas. Get one for your friends who don't know what to do for. You'll get it in time. And I've got all of these paintings in it, and I will give $10 to Frank Bet for every painting, for every calendar that sells today and tomorrow. And I think I've got over 50 online. So if I sold out, I would be so happy to give you guys that check. And then the other little feature I wanted to show you about this is in my calendar, I show you where I went to do each of these paintings. So you get a little bit more information about each of the paintings and what inspired them. But this is just something I want to do for Frank Bet. I had some left over, and we're getting towards the end of the season. I want to do what I can to help out. So thank you so much. Now I'll stop sharing.
And let me take you off of Spotlight. Okay, now anybody who talks will end up being on the front here. So,
Okay.
So I have a question, Nancy. Can you tell us a little more about Procreate?
Oh boy, that's a whole nother story.
It's an app, right?
It is an app for the iPad. You would need to probably get a decent iPad and the iPad Pencil. So it would be a great Christmas gift. It's an app that you pull up, and if you guys were ever interested, we could talk about that further, but that is like a whole nother animal. But it's really a lot of fun. Yeah.
maybe we can talk about sometime in the future, having you come and actually teach a class using it. Well, maybe do a demo for us using it at the Frank Bet Center, where we could actually do it in person and people could have their iPads with them and be able to play with it with you leading them through it. That could be fun.
That would be fun, definitely.
I think Andrea had a question that you may not have gotten to answer. Can you ask that again, Andrea? You're muted.
I think I saw that come through.
Oh, you saw it come through? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't answer it in the chat. I answered it.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, Art Essentials, I think, does the umbrella, and they do the EZL.
Right. Because
easel
I
as
have
well.
an umbrella that it's horrible. I hate using it. It could be a very light wind and it just falls over, or it's just the mount on it is really very poor. So to see how you have your setup with the umbrella, that's a big help.
Oh, good. I'm glad that was helpful to you. And one thing I forgot to mention is there is a tether for that.
Okay.
So you can pull this thing down and really wrap it up good. But once there's a good breeze, I do not recommend putting it up. I do not recommend ever leaving your easel set up with your umbrella up.
Okay.
It just happens so easily.
Right.
Yeah. That's, I think, why I make such a big deal about finding shade.
Yes, I can see. I like the app that you had too about tracking the time and the sunlight.
Yes,
Be very helpful. I've been
That
painting
is.
plein air this summer, and I'm fortunate this whole summer has been mostly foggy and overcast. And so I haven't really needed the umbrella, but there will come a time when I will need it. So do
Yeah,
you ever use
definitely.
weights or weight down your easel to keep it
Um,
stabilized?
Not that easel, no. Uh, but because that box is so heavy on it,
Okay,
that hasn't been an issue for me so much. Yeah,
okay. And so when you paint, do you stand or do you sit?
I do stand.
Okay,
I back up all the time when I'm painting. I'm always going back and forth. Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
good to
Mm.
know.
yeah. So, but I mean, I could sit. Someday I probably will need to sit, but right now, and I do like to stand. And that takes almost a conditioning, to stand that long to paint.
Right,
But I think it's kind of better. I mean, I think it's better for your posture and everything else.
right.
Mhm, mhm. This is great. I learned a great deal about plein air painting. And it's something
good.
I've only done a few times and didn't really factor in the lighting too much. I mean, I ended up taking a picture at the beginning, and then when everything changed, kept referring to the photo. But I like the idea of doing it with the light moving, so you can, you know, uh, solve some of those problems. But I was interested that you do put in your darks first, because that sort of settles your light, right? I mean, that's going to.
It does, and that's sort of an oil painting thing too.
Okay.
I think certainly that's not the way you go about it with watercolor.
Yeah.
But oil painting, it really is. And like I said, because I'm using transparent, you also want to do, the thing I didn't mention is you want to start with thin layers and work into thicker.
Right.
And your lights are thicker because they're opaque. Your darks are thinner because they're transparent. So that makes kind of a lot of sense to work it that way.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.